Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. It is Wellness Wednesday, and today we're talking, we will eventually get around to core values. Okay, this one's a rabbit hole because the journey began this week by me sitting back because I was overwhelmed. Again, this overwhelm is so persistent it's affecting my Myers-Briggs profile. It's weird. I used to be consistently INTJ. Now I'm coming up INFJA. So I have to skew my whole, what does this mean now? Like, I was warned by an old boss that those things change over time. He apparently went from an I to an E, but anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about core values, but it started with me going, about all these things on the internet that people are freaking out over that to me don't seem very important in the grand scheme of things. And it seems to me that these not very important things are because people are afraid they are the heralds of terrible things to come. And I think that's a form of self-torture. I think you have to examine each event, examine each decision as a unique event and not be so driven by fear that you start making false connections. Now, that doesn't mean the fear doesn't come from a very real place. People are very afraid lately. And that's what I think is driving all the freaking out. Fear can really make you an asshole because it makes you desperately cling to false surety. And that's very human. And it's very understandable. And it's going to drive people away. I say it that way because that's not a judgment of the morality of the behavior, just the consequence of the behavior. I'm not a consequential moral philosopher. I think things are right and things are wrong and intents matter. What fear results in is that instead of being able to engage with nuance, people become really strident. Everything is Gandalf going, "You shall not pass," right? And then the Balrog goes, and then Gandalf climbs up again and goes, "You shall not pass," and then the Balrog goes, and Gandalf goes, "You shall not pass," and then the Balrog goes, right? And Gandalf keeps Groundhog Daying Gandalf the Grey, and so he never becomes Gandalf the White. What did that ridiculous metaphor mean? Basically, that people just dig in and keep making statements instead of reassessing the origin of certain opinions that are getting some pushback. And I want to make the distinction here because this is an important core value for me, okay? Authenticity and integrity are important to me. And that means not cowing, not claiming you're wrong because you said something offensive. Owning you're wrong when you actually think you were wrong. And one of the interesting conversations I had this week, and this is the good thing about putting these things up on Twitter sometimes, is I don't know if anybody saw the thing with Taylor Swift being upset about a comment made about her in a show I've never heard of. Apparently, it's Gilmore Girls with less economic privilege. I don't know. That's just what I was told. I've only seen the clip of the show. For context, it was basically a moody teenager being a jerk to her mom. And she said, you go through guys faster than Taylor Swift. And I admit, I've never understood the whole Taylor Swift burns through guys thing. I'm not, Taylor Swift appealed to a demographic I was not a part of. I wasn't big on the whole American Idol phenomenon. I like some of Taylor Swift's songs. I respect her work ethic. She's been very successful. She's doing something right in that regard. But I actually Googled her dating history to see, was she some like Bruce Wayne style bon vivant and I just didn't know? No, she dates a guy for 3 months, they break up, dates another guy for 3 months, they break up. I mean, in the realm of normal, healthy behavior, right? That's about the period of time where people who are actually interested in meaningful relationships go, is this working or not? If it's not working, let's move on. But as it was explained to me, brand Taylor Swift has this tortured relationship with the people she's dated. I still don't think the joke works. I don't understand why Taylor Swift is singled out for that when artists like Leonard Cohen, who went through a lot of women in the 60s and wrote songs about almost all of them. They weren't held to the same standard. George Clooney, some weeks, had a different girl on his arm every month, and that was part of his mystique. There is something to Taylor Swift's complaint that why is she getting branded this way? But as the person who disagreed with me said, that thought the joke worked, said that is Taylor Swift's brand, rightly or wrongly. It's part of the cultural phenomenon that is Taylor Swift, the brand. It's fair game for a scene when a teenage girl is being a little jerk. Okay, fair. I believe a joke has to be true to be funny, or at least like, It either has to be true to be funny or it has to be sort of self-referential. I wasn't aware that this was the thing, and therefore I was sort of left out of a joke. Now, again, I'm pretty sure I'm not the core demographic for this audience. But, this conversation, it was a disagreement, but it was a productive one because I learned something about kind of the general brand about Taylor Swift and drama culture, which I still don't get. I don't get this thing about drama, about people loving drama. Oh my God, I don't get it. I can't connect to it. And apparently understanding this particular element of Taylor Swift's brand, you have to understand drama culture. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just not capable of understanding this right now. I'm missing a piece, right? Cool. Something I might look into someday. I'm not sure it's good for my mental health right now because I could use less drama and less yelling and less noise. I can't think there's so much freaking out right now. But I wouldn't have been able to have that conversation if I just dug in and kept going, nope, it's sexist. Nope, it's sexist. Nope, it's sexist. I listened to this person, one, because I respected them. We have a pre-existing relationship. But also, we have the same core values. I realized we were talking past each other when she said, I don't believe that entertainment should be a classroom. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a disconnect. I'm not coming at it from a moral point. Because I said, I just think we can do better than, depicting teenage girls as slut-shaming other women as a form of comedy. And I can see how that came across as a moral argument. It was a technical one for me. If there had to be a better joke there, like, you go through more, and this is the problem, that it's a question of references, right? I'm sure we can think of people in history who were much more promiscuous than Taylor Swift, However, would they be relevant to the audience for that show? I weep for humanity. It's just kind of strange to me, too, that a teenager would be that aware of her mom's sex life and brazen enough to comment on it. Yeah, I'm old school. You got smacked for making comments like that to your mother. Or the verbal equivalent. It was not tolerated. So, again, this is a whole world I don't understand. But we were able to find common understanding on that core value of entertainment should not be a classroom. We agreed on that and could build out from that. Getting to those points requires drilling down and having a back and forth and not being so strident on positions. And I know I've talked before about, for too many people, opinion is identity and being wrong is being bad. And a lot of the time, it's not even a question of being wrong. These are not simple A-B solutions. Life is not a series of trolley problems. I hate trolley problems. But too many people are so at the end of their rope that every discussion becomes some declaration of identity. And I noticed that happening with a lot of stuff. The Gina Carano thing, which I understand on principle, people taking issue with the fact that what she said was misreported. She never used the word Republican. We are likely never going to know all the ins and outs. Maybe somebody will write a book one day or an article 3 months from now when it's settled down and nobody gives a shit so people can tell the truth. But it was frustrating to see what she said misreported. She's already been fired. At least people could get that right. You know what I mean? And now there's this Dr. Seuss thing that happened yesterday, but it didn't happen yesterday, but it was announced yesterday. It made the news yesterday because it's something about reading, and it was Dr. Seuss's birthday. And so the Dr. Seuss estate announced that, I'll show you the thing. Where is it? Shit. Okay. I'll show you the actual statement from the estate, because unlike the people who reported on Gina Carano, I deal in facts. So here we go. It's a statement from Dr. Seuss Enterprises, March 2nd, 2021. Today, on Dr. Seuss's birthday, Dr. Seuss's Enterprises celebrates reading and also our mission of supporting all children and families with messages of hope, inspiration, inclusion, and friendship. Statement of core values off the bat. Hope, inspiration, inclusion, and friendship. Okay. We are committed to action. To that end, Dr. Seuss Enterprises, working with a panel of experts, including educators, reviewed our catalog of titles and made the decision last year to cease publication and licensing of the following titles. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, If I Ran the Zoo, McElliot's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, and The Cat's Quizzer. These books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment and our broader plan to ensure Dr. Seuss Enterprises catalog represents and supports all communities and families. Okay, this is a statement of core values and a declaration that they're taking action to be consistent with these core values. But people are screaming censorship because some school in Virginia de-emphasized Dr. Seuss books, and this is the belief that they were forced into this somehow. This is where I start going, fear makes people seem like assholes, okay? Because this is exactly what Dr. Seuss did here, and this is on Wellness Wednesday because I am very concerned about this level of fear. And I'm hoping that people will see this and see some reason in it and start looking at what is making them so afraid. Because I think this is actually very positive. This is a brand making a decision, not being cowed by yelling. They made the decision before there was a lot of yelling. And the decision caused a lot of yelling. I think people missed the fact that the decision was made last year. But this is a sort of statement I was looking for from companies like Mass Effect and EA, regarding Mass Effect and EA are the same company. What was I thinking of? EA, okay, Mass Effect and Mortal Kombat, those developers. There we go. I knew that sounded wrong. But I was looking for some statement of core values and how the changes in the games reflected the core values, not it's more respectful, right? I guess you get, respect for, no. It's not clear enough. You know, the Dr. Seuss statement makes it clear that they don't just see the content as offensive, which is the benchmark for a definition of censorship. Censorship is removing content merely because it is offensive. That's not what Dr. Seuss Enterprises is doing here. They're making a decision that this content doesn't reflect their values. They don't stand by it anymore. And so they're pulling it, right? It's not this amorphous, why is the camera focused on Miranda's ass? We wanted to make the costumes more respectful, right? The issue I have there is that that violates one of my core values of artistic integrity first, right? You don't just cow to popular opinion. If you're going to make a comment like we're making the costumes more respectful for women, you're going to have to unpack what made the original costumes not respectful. Because all these companies are making a declaration that modesty is somehow an inherent virtue. And that is a core value I don't share. I think I support someone's choice to choose modesty situationally, but modesty is an inherent trait. No, it not false modesty, right? You got to be able to name what you're good at and what your strengths are to be able to compete in this world. And it's a highly competitive world. And so, unlike Dr. Seuss Enterprises, where I'm like, all right, they're not doing this because they were shouted down. They're not doing this just because people are mad at them. They looked at it. They decided it was wrong. They made a principled decision. I respect that. I want to support that. I'm not going to scream censorship because it wasn't merely on the basis of offense. And companies have the right to make these decisions going forward. They have the right to say, we don't stand for this anymore. And it's, it's undeniable. I don't think Dr. Seuss's entire legacy should be defined by the fact that he was pro-yellow peril. People don't even know what that term means anymore in some places, but yellow peril was the idea that the immigration of Asian people to North America was an inherent threat. And Dr. Seuss openly supported the internments of Japanese Americans. So Dr. Seuss supported locking up George Takei to put that in terms that a lot of people can understand, right? Because he actually believed that, Japanese Americans would never be real Americans. Their loyalty is and will always be first and foremost to Japan. It's wrong, right? And I'm not even going to show these images. I will link them into the description box if people want to see what they're talking about. I really think it's important that people see this. Because if companies can't even take these sorts of images that refer to people of different, racial backgrounds in, like, I'm not even going to repeat it because it violates YouTube's advertising standards. That's why I'm going to link it instead of saying it, because this video will get demonetized if I say the terms. It's that bad. And the imagery is straight out of dehumanizing propaganda caricature that Dr. Seuss probably learned when he was employed during the war to draw propaganda. A lot of the World War II propaganda was profoundly racist towards Japanese people because it was dehumanize the enemy, right? It's not that they didn't know they were doing it, it was deliberate. I think we can, this is what's getting in the way of me understanding why people are freaking out. Because to me, a core value is, first and foremost, you respect the inherent value of all peoples, and you don't act like one group of people based on what they are, not what they do, is inherently better than another group of people. And if something doesn't pass that test, well, it doesn't go in, right? It is just fundamentally violating that to label something censorship because the people who own the IP now think it's wrong. That means that nothing can ever change now, because any change of heart is censorship, not an authentic belief that this stuff isn't okay. And that's what got me so shook, because that's anti-progress, right? Like that's anti-art. That's this goes back to the Taylor Swift thing. She got stuck in that box, and Britney Spears got stuck in a box, and that was all those artists were ever allowed to be. People wouldn't let them grow. And that makes me nervous, and that makes me depressed. And I admit part of it is because of the negative reaction I got to the first 2 episodes of Boss Fight, where people just wanted lady bits all over again in terms of structure. And it was always advertised as exactly what it was: more characters, less straight up talking. But people resisted letting me go in a different place as a creative person and an artist. I wanted to entertain first, educate second, because I think we need more entertainment right now, and less lecturing and less arguing. And we need to just let people be allowed to be people, right? Because there's so much fear out there. Now, by episode 3, people started getting it more, but I admit I'm still fucking stung by the negativity from those first 2 episodes. Like, part of my soul died because of that. And that's the reality of being a creative person. Now, that informs my criticism of other artistic works. But it also informs my criticism of other artistic works, meaning I cannot stand things that look down its nose at other people. And it seems the other thing that people have been really freaking out about, and again, core values, core principles, come back to this idea of, can we find something that we can agree on? No? Well, we're just not going to get along, and that's okay. I find that's really lacking in discussions of video games. It's the Hogwarts Legacy nonsense, which called it. I said that they were going to put trans people in the game, and you know, everybody was going to look kind of dumb. Called it. But you know, all all the tearing down that's been going on, and giving second class status to games that just want to entertain and just want to tell a fun story, and giving, I believe, too much credit to games that are a multi-hour lecture and not actually an interactive experience where the player gets to decide for themselves what they think. And to me, that's the same digging in. That's the same, it's the same rigidity. It's the same fear in the same way that I'm going to make you feel something, damn it. It's digital syrup of epicac, right? Like, they think that if they're going to make you vomit feeling, that is meaning somehow. And it's not. It just seems like there's too many people who, if they're not engaging in negativity, they're not alive. If they're not yelling the sky is falling about something, they're not screaming racism or sexism or homophobia or transphobia or censorship or deplatforming or chilling speech or whatever. If they're not screaming about something, then they're not alive. And to me, that's the opposite of living. It's the opposite of living. It's just an adrenaline rocket. You're not enjoying the beauty of the world and the beauty of life. It's just this constant floundering to preserve identity and any sense of agency or control, right? And again, that's understandable. I get that is a very real thing right now. And that's why I wanted to talk about it on Wellness Wednesday. That indicates that people are searching for something to connect to in terms of something that's sure, something that's stable, right? And because they don't have real stability in their lives, there's a real lack of meaningful connection in relationships. I have my theories about why, but they're just that, theories. They're not anything I'm willing to stake a claim on. I just observe that people, they talk about the loneliness epidemic, but it's more than that. People don't know who they are. They don't define themselves based on those core values. And so instead, they define themselves based on issues that they think are avatars of core values, but they're really not. And it's really important to get that straight, because you can have negative core values, negative self-talk, negative narratives, things like life is meaningless, the world's a fundamentally brutal place, the belief that you don't deserve good things. And I think the problem with cancel culture right now and the fear people have of being canceled is that it starts that self-talk of I don't deserve good things screaming in people's heads, and people become sure that they're going to be next because this always happens, things always get taken away from me, other people aren't trustworthy, I don't deserve good things, no one's ever going to love me, right? That just infects that thinking. And so what I'm hoping everybody does is start looking for the positives, because everybody has them, right? Everybody has some good qualities. They can define themselves. I'll give you a list, so maybe one will trigger for you, okay? Dependability, reliability, loyalty, commitment, open-mindedness. A lot of gamers are actually quite open-minded. They have their little things that they get rigid on, but for the most part, gamers are quite open-minded. consistency, honesty, efficiency, see coders, efficiency, innovation, creativity, good humor, compassion, a spirit of adventure, motivation, positivity, optimism, passion, respect, fitness, mental fitness, as well as physical fitness, courage, education, perseverance, patriotism. That's not, for some people, that is a positive core value. Okay. Service to others, environmentalism, another one. Now, there are some core values, like I said, that are not, they don't mesh well. They don't play well with each other, right? And so some people won't get along without being, won't get along even though nobody's a bad person. There are plenty of people in this world I don't think are bad people. I can't stand to be around them. We're like oil and water, right? Because my open-mindedness and spirit of adventure and trying to take everybody where they're at offends their loyalty to tradition. And, patriotism is a form of loyalty, right? And one could argue that we're just loyal to different things, and so we can't get along. And I just can't. It's terrible for my mental health to be around them. I don't think they're bad people. I cannot. Just because I think somebody is at core a good person doesn't mean I think they're an informed person. Some people are not very educated, and that's not their fault. They didn't have those opportunities, which is why I don't think they're a bad person. I just don't want to be around them. Can't handle it right now. I can only take on so much. And hopefully, which is why I gave, a list of things where people are like, what? No, don't argue it. Just because it's not compatible with your good qualities doesn't mean there's not something worthy of respect in there. Because, look at what happens when you can't see the good in people you don't necessarily like. You become like Dr. Seuss and think Asian Americans are some sort of inherent threat. Because that's what fear does. It makes you too rigid because you're looking for surety. And surety makes you act like an asshole. So hopefully you liked this little presentation inspired by current events. Haven't done a Wellness Wednesday that's inspired by current events. We'll see how this goes. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching, and try not to stress, please.